So I have been asked repeatedly, what was the thing that made you decide to finally come out and tell your worst secret? I had kept the secret for almost 20 years. And it's not that uncommon for women to keep this secret for 5, 10, 15 years and finally share it. So when I was younger, I had an abortion, and it was the worst decision of my life. But I gave my life to Jesus because I was desperate, I was sad, I was at one point so depressed I was suicidal. But God really sent his son to die for the sins of the world. And he died for my sins. And he has a purpose and a plan for me. And so I gave my life to him, and my life turned around dramatically. And I was able to then get married a few years later, and I had 2 kids, and then I adopted 5. And I mean, he just kept lavishing me the closer and closer I got to the Lord. And I was dealing with this abortion experience and really feeling convicted and really feeling healed. And so I sat down to write a book. I still hadn't told anybody, though. I had not told a single soul, and I guess it was just the shame of it, and also, I don't know, I think there's a part of us that knows that there are things that we kind of want to continue to keep hidden, even though we think we've given it all to the Lord. So I sat down to write this book. It's called To Be a Mother, and it was going to be called Adopting God's Heart, but it ended up being called To Be a Mother, Adopting God's Heart. And I sat down to write the book, and I prayed on the story. I just prayed to the Lord on what I was going to say and what I was going to write. And he said, you have to give me your whole story. And it was through that I said no. But there was something inside of me that decided, you know what can it hurt to just write it down? And as I started to write it down, I started to feel even more healed, because I started to go back and really take the time with the Lord through prayer to really think about that decision, to really think about what was it that I was thinking. And when I saw the whole picture of my life and how amazing it was that God forgave me and he loves me, I realized that that the story would never be as strong. To just see the happy ending without seeing the redemption story would not be as powerful. And so now I understood why God convicted me to tell the story. But at the same time, that meant that I needed to then move forward and deal with some things. I needed to tell my mother, who lost her first grandchild to abortion. I needed to tell my children. Some of them didn't even know what an abortion was. I had to tell them in age-appropriate language, and it was hard. And then I told my pastor. And when I told my pastor, he said, have you ever thought of getting any healing or going to a Bible study for post-abortive women? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. And then he told me about CareNet, and he told me about a local resource center, a pregnancy support center that they had at UNC. It's called Pregnancy Support Services. And I went over there, and when I went there, I was just greeted with so much love. I had never known that the pregnancy clinics also offered post-abortion support. I didn't know that the feelings that I had of depression, of thoughts of suicide, of struggles in my life, of relationship issues, of, some of my friends who had had abortions had issues with addictions. And I didn't know that those could be connected. And so I thought I was alone. I really believed what Planned Parenthood wants you to think is that I'm the rare exception for regretting it. So that's what happens when you keep your secret and you don't share it with people. What happens is that you start to believe a lie and you start to live a lie. And the thing is that most women don't talk about it, because we know that there's such a large percentage of women. I think 1 in 3 women who have had abortions, depending on the demographic, but let's just call it that. In some cases with the African American community, it's 1 in 2, and in Christian communities, it's almost 60%, so it's pretty high. So I went into this, I took Forgiven and Set Free. And it changed my life. Yes, I had been healed. Yes, I believed that God had forgiven me, but forgiven and set free allowed me to get to a place where I forgave myself. And so I am so grateful for CareNet for offering not only these amazing services for women with unplanned pregnancies, but also to be wise enough to think ahead at the fallout of what abortion has caused, which is there are millions of women who are dealing with the ramifications of their abortions. And to have that community and that support was so huge. When I think about people wanting to support CareNet or an organization that helps women in unplanned pregnancies, really the other piece of that is that what they are doing is offering an opportunity for women like myself to be able to be full and whole and understand the love of Christ and be able to be used in a mighty way. I mean, what I do now, that book has touched so many people, and it has also helped me to rise up and be bold enough and strong enough and yet obedient enough to the Lord to speak out on this issue and to be able to tell my story. And women come forward to me and they tell me their stories, and sometimes for the first time because they feel comfortable. The more we speak, the more we're out there sharing, the more we're going to see more of a need even for these Bible studies like Forgiven and Set Free and Surrendering the Secret, and there's more. And I just am so grateful that I have been able to be used in that way and healed. And I will give you a couple of examples. I had not told my testimony at all, and then I was about to tell my testimony for the first time on a Sunday. But that Saturday, it was 40 Days for Life, and I decided I wanted to go and pray at a clinic, which sometimes for post-abortive women, it's really